Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, welcome everyone. Now we can begin with roll call.
President Roger Florkowitz.
Present.
Vice President Tim Arvanitis.
Present.
Secretary Paul Pretrie.
Here.
David Tarosi.
Here.
Tom Falk.
Here.
Attorney Christian Bartholomew.
Here.
Fire Chief Robert Patterson.
Here.
Deputy Chief David Meyer.
Here.
Interim Recording Secretary John Gutteman's here.
All right. Okay, first, moving on to approval of the minutes. They have been signed, and I believe we need to just have them accepted with a motion.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. President.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved.
Nice job, John.
All right. Okay, correspondence listed, nothing has come up since the publishing of the minutes, I'm assuming?
Nothing.
All right. And update on the full-time hiring, if we could cover that briefly.
Yes, so today we had the swearing-in ceremony for the two new full-time firefighters at 1 o'clock today. And Roger, thank you so much for attending that. And everything went really well. It was a good turnout, and we're looking forward to these two gentlemen moving forward in our department.
Great.
I got a question, Chief.
Yes.
Is this replacement?
So one is replacement, and one is increasing our staff.
Wonderful.
Up to 21
Thank you.
now. Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? All right, moving on to new business. We're going to discuss and accept public comments for the approval of the final draft of the Merit Board rules, which we've been working on over the last month. Are there any comments from the board or fire department staff regarding that, or from the attorney, anything that you have become aware of that we need to address?
I am not aware of anything new. As you guys know, we circulated the final policy with any revisions and whatnot that we'd previously discussed that we approved at the last meeting. We published notice in the paper of this heavily attended public hearing on passing the new Merit Board rules. Any member of the public has the right, or any other interested person, which would be members of the fire department and whatnot, has the right to show up and comment. I have not heard from anyone. Chief, I think there were no comments that came from the fire department. You said you were going to talk to some of the union guys and
Yep.
whatnot as well?
Yep. They were reviewing, never got back saying that they had any issues with them.
Okay.
Did something right.
Right, it seems so that we do not have a lobby filled with, or seats filled with an overflow crowd ready to dispute anything that we had said for the last 6 weeks. All right. Okay, moving on with that then, does anyone like to make a motion for approval of those Merit Board rules?
Make motion approval.
Second. Okay. All right, all in favor of approval of Merit Board rules?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Merit Board rules are approved in the final draft.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate all your help on that. And Christian, thank you.
Excellent. So now we will have to get those distributed to all the members of the department per the statute. Pretty easy. And if anybody sees any amendments that, you know, they feel might be merited at some point in the future, keep those in mind. We can address it at another meeting. But with these approved, I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of new business coming up before the board. Chief and I generally talk about a week before each of the meetings to go over any agenda items, and I think probably the easiest way to do it here going forward would be when we have that discussion, we decide if there's anything that's going to be on the agenda. If there is, we'll proceed with our monthly meeting. If there is not, then we can send out an email to all you guys letting you know that, you know, we didn't have anything that came up on the agenda, and unless you have something to present on the agenda, then we would cancel the meeting with 48 hours' notice and move on to the next month. So,
I guess with that in mind, there were several issues that we had discussed in our conversations in the study sessions. If any of the board members have issues that, you know, are dear to their hearts and we want to make sure we dive into a little further, now would be the time that we start thinking about those things. If there was, you know, concerns with, you know, wording or trying to drill into this a little more, development of some of the procedures as far as, because we had mentioned some of the things on the tests could be still construed as somewhat arbitrary, so I would encourage the department to really work into some of those things. You know, like we said, the one mention I made of the, you know, the hygiene standard and the rating systems and things like that. You know, is 5 uses a lot of cologne and 1 that never showers. I'd like to get some real numbers around that stuff. It doesn't have to be in a monthly meeting, but, you know, 2 months, 3 months down the road, I think that we could be really, really benefit from having some of that stuff really brought to light to address some of the things that we had discussed and some of the things that Mr. Falk had concerned himself with the testing versus the practical standards and things like that. So now that we've got the rules and the things that go to it, if we can really tighten up some of those procedures that were present and that were referenced in the current rules, I think that over the next, you know, 6 months or a year, we can make sure we address that stuff as well.
Fair enough.
Okay. Any other questions or comments?
The only thing that I had was that I wanted to bring to light, because I don't know that you guys were at the safety board meeting, and just in case anybody asks any questions, because it was a new issue to me. The safety board did approve the hire of 3 part-time firefighters at the meeting today, and we had a discussion about kind of where that falls in the statutory scheme. I reread the entirety of the Merit Board statute a couple times here, and I agree with the fire department's approach that in the conversation that we had, in that, you know, the part-time members historically have been members at will, employees at will in the department. They are not eligible for the PERF benefits. They still have to meet the requirements of a firefighter as far as, you know, professional requirements and whatnot. But they're not sworn members of the department, and everything in the statute really only seems to pertain to, or at least specifically mention, the full-time members. So I will probably look into that issue a little bit further and just see if there's anything that we do need to address there. But at present, I don't think that there is, since these guys really fall into a different box.
And my reading of it is that it became a gray area, because that was something I was questioning myself, is that the number of full-time firefighters triggers the need or the process for fire merit, but I don't think it specifically indicates anywhere that it only applies to, you know, because it addresses the department and a lot of the issues related to disciplinary promotions, things like that. But it doesn't necessarily say it doesn't apply to the.
It's vague.
Right,
Yeah,
so I think
it's-
that definitely needs to be resolved, because to me, it's confusing that we would split that. If we're gonna talk about the fire department, it makes sense that we should be dealing with the whole fire department. And even though we may not have, you know, regulatory requirements there, but I think all those rules and the things that we've established are going to apply to them. It just may not have the same, you know, strength, because.
That may be an item that's ripe for, you know, including mention in an amendment to the Merit Board rules at some point in the future. And you guys can add any additional information, but my understanding, these part-time members, they're not eligible for promotion. They've never been formally a part of the hiring list, basically, that we've formulated for full-time members. So the vast majority of items, and even in the disciplinary procedures, the section that addresses that specifically states, talks about full-time members of the department.
Right.
So,
Again, it's just for me, my concern would be the training requirements, things like that are still going to apply universally, and that's the part where, to avoid that issue of, oh, these rules don't apply to me, because we've all been there before and have seen experiences where they say, oh, well, this is, I'm excluded or I'm not part of this. I think it would be nice to see everything handled through that same issue, and we just acknowledge that it is, because the fire department's fire department, not the safety board, because the police commission has turned into the safety board, and I'm not sure how do they handle the VIPS stuff through that. Are there appointments there? Is that safety board approval? And those are kind of the counterpart of the volunteers that we have within the fire department. So we could maybe research that a little bit and compare and contrast how that's managed as well, just to make sure it's uniform, make sure that everybody knows going into this, because we certainly don't want to have, now that we've taken the time to do this, to have that thing of, oh, well, we've got favoritism, or, the chief's trying to pay a fast one because he's a volunteer, or whatever. I mean, we've all heard it, so I would just encourage us to look into that to make sure it is defined, get it on paper, and then we know, rather than just saying, oh, yeah, that's kind of how I read it. Because when I did look at that, I know that it was, the whole reason for this regulation, this commission, was based on full-time. That's what triggered its existence, but nowhere does it say it only applies to full-time. It relates to, the disciplinary actions and the things that go with it, but at the same time, all of that's subject to review by the Lake County courts as well. And as town employees, it just seems like under that umbrella, it'd be nice to know where we're painting that and make sure it's officially allocated.
yeah. It's an issue of statutory interpretation, I think. My bet would be that this statute will be amended a few times in the next few years as everybody works out the kinks. But I'll be looking into that issue, and I can produce a report. And, if there is any recommended action, we'll make you aware of it.
Okay, great. All right.
Got a question on them, if you don't mind. Just out of curiosity, when do you use part-time?
All the time,
And
every
for what
day.
reason? Or
Pardon?
for what reason, or is it?
Staffing. Yeah,
So-
they work right alongside with our guys.
If someone's on vacation, or are they just in place of a full-time employee?
No, they're in there covering to give us numbers that we need. So, guys off, yeah, but also additional to get our numbers up higher even.
Right. So any calls that come in, they're still using like a paging system to be alerted, or they're?
They're on station with us. They work 24-hour
Okay.
shifts with us.
Okay.
How are they paid?
Yeah.
Just hourly?
Yep.
Same pay scale, or?
No, they got their own pay scale.
That's horrible. Sorry.
And that's how it's done all around.
Do we have anything to do
It's
with
the same
these
thing
hires?
all around.
Yeah, I've never been fond
No,
of
that's what
part-time stuff.
the whole issue
That's
is
the point,
coming
yeah.
That's just me.
Okay, I thought that's where you were going.
Exactly. I think that's where some of the confusion comes in, is that we need to make sure we define that so that, not only is the board not surprised, but any potential people coming in related to that, 'cause again, I can tell you right now, I remember the old days of the pagers going off and, dodging people at intersections as the blue lights crossed in front of you. And I know we don't have.
We
Yeah, I know-
don't do that.
I know we don't have that anymore, which has been a great thing. But at the same time, now I sit back and say, well, who gets priority on that call list? How is it handled? I know how tow trucks are dispatched, to be fair.
They put in
And so-
they put in for days they can work, and then Dave does all the scheduling. They submit, every month they have to submit so many hours to him, and then he works out the calendar to see where they fit in on those dates and that. And then we try to increase, we go
Again,
minimum 6,
That's just
so they
one of
help
those
us
things that I
maintain
know
that.
is ripe for the, for the finger pointing that goes on. And,
There's no finger pointing.
and,
Maybe we should have taken that into consideration on the hiring, or maybe they got a little more consideration if they wanted to become full-time. Was that ever a thing that was done, or?
I can't hear you.
Well, I'm sorry. So maybe we should have put something in the hiring process where they got a little extra consideration if they wanted to become full-time when a opening.
yeah, is there a transition plan for volunteer to full-time?
No, there used to be, we used to do inside hiring before, but
Okay.
because of the fact that it's time-consuming and getting little to no people,
Yeah, they
getting
had the
it, so we're
ability to
wasting
do that,
time. So
right.
instead of wasting time, submit it to everybody, they still have their chance to put in and
Okay.
apply.
I understand.
So,
Okay.
yeah, we ran into a lot of problems just doing it internal, so that's
So
why
it's an
we
open
started going
posting
external.
for every full-time position regardless of whether they've been there or not, but,
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
Mr. President, I agree with Tom. I'm not well-versed in how the budget process goes. I know you're probably sitting in with the clerk treasurer and talking about some of your needs for 2026. But I want this voice to be in the back of your mind, that I would love to see one firefighter, full-time firefighter for every 1,000 residents. So that's 30 firefighters. That should be the goal. When you're sitting there before the clerk treasurer, I want you to just remember what my request is. Ultimately, we want to get to that point.
Understand. Unfortunately, our budget doesn't.
I know, but if we could squeak out one guy, maybe they can give us a little for the fire department, so be it. I want to see a robust fire department. We're growing. I don't know what's happening on the south side of town. I know on the east side of town, we're adding 200 and some odd homes. A lot more traffic. Everybody's building around us. And I know every time I see or hear sirens, I see a fire truck driving down the highway. So you guys are working your tails off. So just remember my little voice in the back of your mind,
Understand. Yep.
So
Yeah. We're restricted to the budget, so we got to stick to it, unfortunately. So that's how it works.
we believe in you.
Yep.
We know you can do it.
Any other comments by the board? Any business from the floor? Apparently, no.
One at a time, please.
Yeah, no phone-in bids. All right. Now we get to item 11, adjournment. Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
Motion.
Second.
Motion approved.
All right.